Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of our Leading Lady Speaker Series, Conversations with Queens. I'm Naja Patterson. I am a sophomore at Memorial High School.
And hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Jean-Pierre, and I'm a senior at Memorial High School.
And our first guest for our speaker series is Annelise.
Hi, ladies. Thanks so much for having me for the first episode.
Annelise Campbell is the CEO and founder of an influencer marketing agency. Over the course of her career, she has developed a deep understanding of influencer strategy in digital marketing space, activating for several Fortune 500 companies during the course of her career. She saw the lack of prioritization in diverse talent and inclusive strategies in the market. Thus, CFG was born. It's okay. We can just keep that in. Okay, so you can start off by giving an introduction of yourself, like your college experience, what was it like, and how you decided to get into this field.
Sure, yeah. So as Naja said, my name is Annelise Campbell. I'm the CEO of FG, which is an influencer marketing agency focusing on diversity, inclusion, equity in the marketplace. I majored in communications with a minor in business marketing. And I didn't always know what I wanted to do, quite frankly. I knew I wanted to work in advertising of some sort, but I didn't really have people around me who worked in space would be in the right direction. It was really just like people around me who observed, she's really smart, she can persuade people of things, she's really clever, quick on her feet. I used to be really into commercials, so like when TV first came out, I'm gonna age like the ability to pause and I used to rewind all the time and call my parents down and be like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is so funny. And now later and say like it was something that was very appealing and captivating to me, the idea of like someone's attention and convince them to do something in seconds, and if you do it right, something will happen. Some people's minds will change or know about a new product or so that was kind of my idea. I was gonna go into advertising. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I don't know what's gonna come to life in my collegiate experience. I didn't have an idea there. I just kind of had a concept in mind. And so I'm majored in communications. And I started off as a business major. And the way business major was set up at Albany at the time, it was very focused on the more business and analytical side of marketing at the time, which would have been like consumer behavior, which is what I knew I didn't want to do. They were really focused on, the major at the time was focused on like accounting and a lot of just general business acumen, which was something that I realized like I wasn't really good at, and I struggled with that. So my advisor had recommended that I switch to a comms major, and that she thought I'd be able to get more versatility and more experience and a better understanding of the field that I was potentially going to go into if I switched my major. And it was a much better pivot for me personally. I took courses that had to do with marketing campaign strategies and like stuff like that, and persuasive writing and persuasive communications and stuff like that really helped, I think, at the time give me a better understanding of what a communications person or somebody entering the communications field should be doing. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background and kind of like a brief overview of my experience in college in terms of what I majored in and what kind of direction I had from at that point in my career, or not my point of education.
So after you graduated college, and let's say you made it onto your path of, founding your own business, becoming the CEO, what was the spark that really led you to start that?
Yeah, so I'll kind of give a little bit of background and context in terms of my path and how I got to where I'm at. So I was lucky in the sense that the career that I wanted, or the industry I wanted to go into, I didn't know all the answers, what I needed to Google, basically. So I had a list of agencies that I wanted to work for when I graduated from undergrad. So I in my notes, and like I would always look for job openings, blah, blah, blah. And in one of my courses, I had this course, I think it was like marketing campaigns 101 or something along those lines. It was like deep dive into marketing campaigns. And I watched this documentary on advertising. And I came across this agency in the documentary called the Martin Agency. They weren't on my list. I had never heard of them. But after watching the documentary, I added them to my list, and I was like, oh, this might be somewhere I want to work. So I did my research, and they had this program, for college graduates, called the Student Workshop. And I applied. And at the time, because I had no real experience, I was planning to go to grad school. Like, I was recommendations from my professors. Like, the only way I'm going to be able to stand out is if I go to grad school and I get a master's in marketing. That's what I thought at the time, which was wildly mistaken. But I ended up getting into the Martin Agency student workshop. Before I started to do more research, and I realized like they're like a world-renowned agency. They did all of the advertising for Geico. They came up with the Caveman, the Gecko. Like, they are world-renowned, top awarded, blah blah blah. And which I was shocked about. And that was my first kind of real entry point into marketing. And it was a crash course in all things marketing and advertising. Said, you guys are like the best of the best here. You leave here and decide, okay, I hate this, I want nothing to do with it, then at least we know you're a well-informed decision. So that was kind of my catapult into this industry. And I always give that program so much credit, because it was literally like being dumped into an ocean of advertising. And it was really eye-opening. And now I think, you guys are where marketing companies, they want that type of talent, and they'll put together really unique programs to help you guys get your foot in the door. Diverse talent, like there are so many programs that exist now to help build a more stable, diverse talent pipeline into these advertising, marketing, digital marketing kind of fields. But yeah, that's how I started. And then after that opened a plethora of doors for me. People saw Martin Agency on my resume, and they were kind of like, oh, this girl must, basically. Luckily, I didn't ruin it and mess it up. It worked out. Yeah, so then after that, I went to a small boutique agency where I led strategy for a couple of months. And then I moved on to a much larger agency, which is where I built the most of my career. At that time, I was focused more on social media, like managing brand pages on social, responding to comments, coming up with content. And then influencers started to like become a thing, pay a bit more attention to them. And, my team had said, okay, like, you're the youngest person on the team. Like, you follow, you watch them on YouTube, you read blogs, you need to come up with an opinion on influencers, pretty much. Like, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I, and I ended up basically a year leading the entire influencer division for the consumer. And I started to develop really deep influence over time. And then in my last role, before I founded CFG, I led all of the digital marketing efforts and influencer marketing efforts for NARS Cosmetics across the US, which is a very popular makeup brand. And at that time I had some life changes happening. I had moved to Dallas and my partner, so I was out of New York and like a lot more free time. So I started freelancing. I started just doing stuff on the side, picking up some side hustles. I was like, hey, I have more time, like whatever. And with this influencer directly, and started to realize very quickly women in particular who were becoming influencers were getting a really short end of the bargain. That's the first thing. And then two, they didn't know what to charge. Undercharging everything that they were doing. So in me working with this influencer in Dallas, I kind of saw the writings on the wall beforehand. Like I saw, sometimes some of my white clients would say things like, at the time be like, oh, well, this influencer is too urban, or can she change her hair? Can she not use slang in the caption and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's racist. Like, you can't say that. Those are all microaggressions and need to be unpacked and are very problematic. But then at the same time, I was managing these huge Fortune 5. I would have to be responsible for sending emails to all the influencers we wanted to work with, white, black, Spanish, Muslim, whatever. And I would get their back for how much they would charge. And I would be able to just see discrepancy, like in my inbox very clearly, like what white women were charging, what Spanish women were charging, what women were charging. And it was clear that minorities they just didn't know what to do. Like, they didn't know what to charge, and they didn't have managers. Seed had kind of been planting and brewing. And by the time I got to Dallas and started freelancing, I had a client under my belt and saw that there was just a huge need for change in the industry, for somebody who could go fight for minorities and people of color, for brands to see the value that they bring to the table, and what they can do. When I was like, yeah, this is something I think I want to do. I think I want to start my own agency and do that. So that's a long-winded answer of how I kind of got to where I'm at now.
So the next question I have for you is, do you think there was a pivotal point that made you decide to take this approach career-wise? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll answer that in two folds, because there might be people on the call who are thinking about entrepreneurship, and I'll address that, but I'll also address kind of the pivotal moment in me navigating my career. Luckily, I had a couple of internships that could kind of prepare me for things, but I got kind of like my big break with that Martin Agency internship, and one of the things a mentor had said to me, because I was very nervous. Like, this was like one of the best advertising agencies, like thousands of kids applied, and they picked like 30. I was like, this is outrageous. And a mentor had said to me, nobody knows the value that you can bring to the table but you, right? So if they're picking you, they're only going off of a sliver of yourself that you did during this interview process. And they don't even know all the things that you can do. So come into this space ready to share all of those other things that they haven't even seen yet, because the small sliver showed them was good enough to get you into the door. So you need to come with your kind of like A game, and be confident in what you bring to the table, because they haven't even seen things. And it was advice that stuck with me, and that I carried into kind of every situation in career after that. That what you put out for someone during an interview, when you get that first job, is minuscule in comparison to what you bring to the table as an individual. So for me, after I had that kind of conversation and reinstilled kind of confidence in myself, and granted, like, I was a kid, like fresh out of college, I didn't know everything. I knew what I knew, right? And so it wasn't I know better than else. It was more of something I bring to the table is special enough for me to work on that. Let me focus on that and figure out what I can bring to the table and why it matters. And I think it helped me a lot. Like, I was never I was ever the person who was shy to raise their hand or shy to speak up. I was very kind of out there and charismatic and bubbly in terms of that, but I didn't have all the confidence. I think people would have thought that, but I definitely didn't, right? And so that piece of advice really helped me. It really did help me feel secure in what I can bring to the table as an individual. And I would say that whole experience was a pivotal moment in my career, and helped shape kind of the person that I am today. And then in terms of entrepreneurship, that was a whole different battle. But one of the things made it clear for me was that there was a need for what I was offering. Like, my level of expertise, people who looked like me needed it. And when I could come in, it was game changing. Like, one of my first clients, like, she went from not being able to pay her rent when we first started working together to well over 6 figures in like 6 months. And when that started to happen, I was like, wow, you have an opportunity to make real tangible impact for other women and men of color in this space. And not everyone wants to do that, wants to bring a level of expertise. Some people will be like, no, I'll just stay and I'll work for whatever agency or Pepsi, and I'll stay there and build my career that way, which I could have done. But me at that point was like, this is you. Like you have the opportunity to change people's livelihoods by just giving them the right information and being in their corner and fighting for them and having that level of expertise. So at that point, when that started to happen with like my first client when I was freelancing, I was like, okay, you probably need to think about pursuing this full time. And you know, she was, like I said, she's an influencer, so she had huge following at the time. So she got a feeling, was like, my manager is looking for new clients who would be interested, and like 60 people had asked for my information in like 24 hours. I was like, okay, this feels like a sign. I don't think I can ignore this and keep this on the side any longer. So that was kind of that kind of pivotal moment for me, in terms of taking the leap to entrepreneurship.
So our next question is, have you ever had any doubts about your career path? And if you did, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I definitely did. So first job after college, after I left the Martin agency, I had started in that new job as a social media manager in a small boutique agency, and the agency was laying people off. They were being bought out by a bigger company, so they were laying people off. And at that point, I think I had a lot of doubt, because I had went from this big agency that everybody knew to this small agency where I was doing good work and like I was developing a skill set. But at that point, I was kind of like, wow, everybody else has been bigger, faster, stronger, better than I was. That's what I thought. And I was struggling to find a job. I had a spreadsheet where I think I had applied to over 150 jobs in like 3 months. And I think that was a point in my very career where I kind of was just like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not good enough? Like, what's going on, right? And I remember very distinctly finally starting to hear back. Like, I was finally starting to get momentum, and somebody else made an offer, or they were asking me, oh, like, what do you want salary wise? And I just felt like a number that was way lower than what I was making in my old job. And I got home, I told my dad about it. He was like, why would you do that? Why would you less than what you made in your old job? Like, what's wrong with you do that? And I was like, because I'm desperate, I'll take anything. Like, I need a job. Like, whatever they give me, I'll take. I don't care. And he was like, no, like, you have to know what you're worth. Like, you were getting paid this much by somebody else for this reason. Like, don't then into it thinking, okay, well, I'll just take whatever you have, I'll take it. And we had a conversation about, again, very similar to that other conversation with my mentor, about just knowing your value. Because at that time, like, I was going into this space, but the space was changing so quickly and it was being so focused on social media. That's what I knew. That's like, I wasn't an old CEO who didn't know how to work Twitter. I wasn't, like somebody been in the industry for 40 years and what Instagram was. I knew what all these things were. Like, I think you needed to know about these platforms because I was on them. Right? And my dad had said something to me like along the lines of like, remember your value that you bring to the table. Like, know that in respects, you may be smarter than some of these people at some things. Like, if it comes to Twitter, you're probably going to know more than they know right now, because again, like, these platforms were just becoming popular for marketers. And at that point, I started to approach interviews and reaching out to people, because I did have because at that point, you apply for 70 jobs and everybody says no. Like, you're kind of like, all right, I'm just going to be homeless. I'll just live at my parents' house forever. Like, what else am I supposed to do? So I was a bit discouraged, but it was having people in my corner to remind me why I wanted to enter this industry, what my perspective as a young person entering this space. And then I started to reach out to people with a bit more confidence, and I started like, hey, I'd love to meet up for a coffee? Can we chat? And I started to kind of just expand my network and put my out there in a different way, which led to me getting one of the best jobs in my career. And so, yeah, I think that was a time I struggled with. And I think I relied on the people who I knew were older and wiser than I was, to help me kind of navigate that situation.
The next question I have for you is, as an entrepreneur, do you believe that you are in a competitive field? And if so, how do you stand out amongst the competition? If not, how do you embrace working alongside people with similar interests as you, especially women of color?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I thought a lot about this. Entrepreneur competition feels deadly. Like it feels extra personal because it's like what you're doing is small, your business, like it feels extra personal. And one of the things, somebody had this guy that I don't really watch all his videos, follow because he the big marketing companies in the world. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk, and he has a company called VaynerMedia, and he says a lot of stuff. I don't listen to everything he says, but he had this one video that I watched one time, and if I have to convince you to buy my product, and the person that I want to buy my product, I have to convince you that what I'm selling is worth it. And when he first like, that's crazy. Like that doesn't make any, like, of course you want to convince someone. And then he was like, I'm not in the business of selling. I'm in the business of what I actually do. And if the people I want to work with are the people who are going to see that work immediately. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. But it's true. Like it is so true. And now, like I'm 2 years into this entrepreneurship endeavor, and I'm recognizing it doesn't matter. I could give somebody the complete playbook of how to run a business from A to Z, and I give it to Laura, right? Able to do it like Annelise. So at that point, Laura and I are not in competition, right? Because what makes my business ability to do my job differently is me. Doesn't matter. I could quit tomorrow and become an accountant. I'd be a horrible accountant, right? I'd suck at that. Still be Annelise the accountant. Like that specific, the attitude, the tenacity, the whatever that I bring to this role that's only something I can do. Nobody else can do that. And once I started that, I was like, yeah, I'm not in competition with anybody but myself. Like we're not competing. And I think one of the things that happens generally, especially as women enter the workforce, we sometimes always hit against each other, and it's always to our disadvantage, whether it's us doing it to ourselves or whether it's people doing it to us. It's to our disadvantage. We to together and see the benefit of having another Black woman in the office or having 3 other Black office. Like now you're a group, now you're a cohort. Why don't you guys get together and figure together and stuff like that, and figure out how you can help each other along the way. And I'll tell you, like my first year of business, I used to watch a bunch of other entrepreneurs who were doing the same thing as me, and I'd tell my partner, and I'd be like, that, like, why isn't this happening to me? Blah blah blah. And like now, like a year later, I'm like, that was a waste of time. That was a waste of time. Like there was no point in doing that because, again, like what they brought to the table was theirs, right? Even though we are playing in the same, it's like if you and I both outside and cook an omelet right now, there'll be 2 different omelets. Doesn't matter if we have the same egg, same pan, same stove. There'll be 2 different omelets, no matter what, right? And so once I started doing that, then I was like, yeah, we're not competition, we're peers. We're peers at this point, and peers help each other. Peers, hey girl, this is what I know. I know how to do it. You should do this way too. It's a lot easier if you do like this. Like, that kind of energy that women, especially Black women, as they enter the workforce, should be bringing to each other, versus feeling like we are in competition, because you're not. Because if one person makes it up the ladder, then it's a lot easier. If I get promoted, it's a lot easier for me to, oh, you know who does the promotion? She does too, right? So I'm at the point now in my career where there is no competition. I'm competing with myself. Year 2 Annelise is competing with year 1 Annelise. Everybody else is doing their own thing, and that's great for them.
So our last question for you tonight is, what advice would you give to aspiring girls who want to be leaders, influential speakers, and entrepreneurs like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would say figure out what is your why and what makes you you. And once you kind of craft that personal branding, story development, and you feel confident about that, it makes entering the space you're in so much easier, right? I think as women naturally so critical of ourselves, like we speak so negatively to ourselves too. Like it's just habit. It's just by habit, right? And I think we'll start to figure out, okay, I'm Annelise. These are my 5 biggest strengths. These are the things I'm the best at. And this is what I want to do with those 5 things that I'm the best at. This is how I think I can become whatever, right? And you feel really confident about those things. It's so much easier to space, feeling word, feeling confident, feeling, friendly, and you're willing to talk to other people. Like it makes such a big difference. And I think one of the things that I always encourage, especially young women, to do as well is figure out what you're good at and don't be honest with yourself about what you're bad at. Like I was not a very type A organized person. And I think for like maybe like 5, 6 years of my life, I was like, okay, how can you fix that? Versus saying to myself, no, you're not a really organized, you're not really good with the details. You're really good at the creative stuff. You're really good at the big picture thinking. You're really good at problem solving. If I had put all that energy that I put into the negative things into the positive things, I would have had a much stronger sense of self. Like I would have been so much more confident in my abilities if I focus on that. It's not to say like, I'm a big proponent of like self-refinement. Like if there are things you want to improve and you want to work on, that's amazing. But at least give yourself grace. Hey, no, you're really good at that. So like when you walk into a room, be like, yeah, I am, and I'm confident in that. And I can project that confidence and talk to people about what I want to do and why I want to do it and why I'm passionate. And you can, once you have that figured out, it's a lot easier to enter spaces, at least feeling just baseline confident. Not I'm better than you, not I'm better than the next person. Just no, I feel good about who I am and what I bring to the table. And I think that's if I could have bottled that up and that from day one, like the moment I entered the the workforce, oh man, my life would have been so much easier. It would have been so much easier. So I always encourage young in particular, like figure out your story, figure out what that and feel really confident in that because that level of confidence will help you and propel you in ways that doubting yourself, imposter syndrome, all of those things, it's a lot harder for those things to occur. Like, no, 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 no. I'm good at this one thing. I'm really good at it. I know I have other things I need to work on, but right now I'm going to focus on the things that I know I can bring to the table. It makes life so much easier, and people can see that radiant energy that just when people, this person was so refreshing, she knew what she was talking about, she knew what she liked, she was important to her, blah blah blah. I think that's really important, and we don't spend enough time telling women to kind of figure that out because we spend so much time focusing on the, oh well, she could have done this better, or oh well, she did this better than I did. Like no, 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 it's not. That's the one piece of advice I would give young women, especially is figure that part out and feel confident about it.
Thank you so much, Annalise, for talking with us and sharing. You really do serve as an inspiration to me, and I know all the young girls watching this will understand where I'm coming from. I want to applaud you at creating where there's a void in our community, and there's so much going on, and people like you actively doing your due diligence to create a platform for women like myself and Nicole and the other females on Leading Ladies is really empowering. And again, applauding you. It's really great hearing from you.
Yeah, thanks so much, ladies. I really appreciate it and excited for whoever you guys talk to next. I'm sure they're going to be great. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.